He's done it.
You superstar, Zach Tuohy. The Cats are home.
Here he is, indeed. Probably not the best goal ever after the siren for a Cats player, but anyway, it was a good one. 288 games, a premiership player, the most AFL, VFL games by an Irishman. Here he is here. Zach Tuohy, welcome, Zachy
Thank you,
boy.
guys. Thanks for having me.
Great to have. Now, I'll tell you what, great to have you here, but loved by his teammates. You got to understand this, Lehmo.
Yes,
Loved by his
yes.
teammates because all Irish blokes are. They're fun loving that.
Yeah.
But the crowd, the supporters loved you. I reckon they'll miss you the most, nearly. And then he did that love heart towards the end. He had that down pat and had that going. Mate, you were loved by the supporters.
Yeah, they warmed to me pretty quick. Geelong is pretty good in terms of just letting people, express themselves,
Yes.
and we don't take it too seriously down there, which is part of the recipe for their success. But the heart thing was something me and my son came up with. It was meant to be just for him at the time, but the crowd seemed to enjoy it. So, and it was a kind of bit of me time, which I'm a big fan of too.
So did your son, by the way, on the ground.
With the cameras, he's a performer. Yeah. There's when he came out in the Jim Stein's game, there's slow-mo vision of him running through the banner first.
Oh, yeah.
And he ran through with both arms kind of crossed across his chest, and as he broke through the banner, he spread them outwards, very much like he was in a movie.
I love it. So how's Geelong different from Carlton?
Biscuits.
Well, we'll get onto the Biscuits, but broadly speaking, how are the two clubs different?
A few ways. Look, for the most part, from a footy point of view, most clubs aren't that different in terms of what it is they're trying to train and what they're trying to work on. And the difference kind of tends to come in the Monday to Friday. And I loved my time, most of my time at Carlton.
Yes.
I really did love it. And, we were treated very well. And they're a huge club that at that point weren't playing as well as big clubs should play. And that kind of presented some challenges. But I came into Geelong at a period where they were just consistently competitive, as they have been for a long time. And I think that instantly eases a lot of the pressure. And Geelong, the joke, I think, external to Geelong players is that we're part-time. We're given a lot of downtime. We're given a lot of time to go and live our lives away from footy. And really, amongst a lot of things, that's the big difference.
But we should talk about it, the elephant in the room, and address it. But it's always good when you're selling a book, which Zachy boy is, of course, called The Irish Experiment. A bit of work gone into that. Anyway, selling the book, and you need a headline, and you got it over the weekend, Zachy boy, with your story on with Brendan Bolton. Can you talk much about that, or have you heard from Brendan?
No, I haven't heard from him. Look, I guess the thing that got me over the line to do this book, one was, I like the idea of it being something that in the years to come, my kids can read it. And if that's the case, I wouldn't shortchange them or anybody else who buys the book by not being pretty open about what that last year looked like. And I always feel compelled to stress this when I've talked about it in the last few weeks, is that genuinely loved all of my time there, even when, times were tough with results on field. And things just kind of soured for me in that last 6 or 8 months. And your intent is never, I wasn't trying to get a headline, and they do seem to have come thick and fast in the last few weeks. But that was a big reason why I left.
So for people who didn't read the papers on the weekend or haven't had a chance to have a look at your booklet yet, what is the top line when it comes to Brendan Bolton in the book?
Look, as happens very, very often in the league, new coaches come in and players don't always jive with them. And that became clear to me early on, that things weren't quite as good as they could have been. I was part of a really strong half-back line with Cade Simpson and Sam Doherty. Cade being a club legend. Doc was about to sort of launch into superstardom. I think he won the best and fairest that year, All-Australian, before he had all his injuries and health issues. So I kind of felt third fiddle, and that was fine. But I was pretty confident for most of that last year things would just rectify themselves, because I really wanted to be a one-club player. Like I didn't want to leave for almost all of that year. And it's an extremely common story, and it's getting traction now. But it was just our relationship didn't sort of lend itself to that.
You didn't gel. Bill mentioned Biscuits in the introduction. What's the Biscuit story?
Talk about getting traction. Yeah, it's just
one little biscuit story.
It was kind of funny, really, in my head, but it was a nice little dichotomy between my last year there and my first year at the Cats, where Trolley comes down there playing our first ever game under Bolton, and they're handing out little biscuits.
So you're flying to Tassie?
Tassie was our first JLT or whatever it was called at the time, and handed out a few biscuits. We had a meeting in the hotel, and anybody who had taken a biscuit was made to stand up and asked if they felt that was appropriate professional athletic behaviour. And as it happens, I didn't take a biscuit, not because I'm a professional. I just didn't feel like a biscuit. And then I tell the story. As it happens, my first game for Geelong was also in Tassie. It was again JLT, and the trolley comes down the aisle, and they're handing out chocolate mousses this time, and I was like, "This is a trap. I am not falling for this." To do better than that, Scotty, I was thinking, and I looked over at Danger, who was a couple of seats away, and he was knuckles deep into his second moose, and I was like, all right, things are a little bit more casual here. So it was meant as a funny way of illustrating the difference.
But you can read all about it in the book.
Yes.
In the book, of course. What's it called? Where do we get it, Raps?
Zach Tuohy, The Irish Experiment. It came out on Monday, so you can get it in all bookstores and, of course, online as well. Written by the brilliant Catherine Murphy,
Yes.
I should say.
Exactly, which is another good Irish friend of yours.
Yeah, she's incredible to work with. I can safely say the book wouldn't have been finished in time if it wasn't for Catherine, because the last chapter goes right up until this season just gone.
Great. And as of November, you're all officially unemployed.
Yeah.
How does it feel, Zach?
Just a reminder.
I know, Ross. How does it feel, mate?
Oh, it's strange. Yeah, I've kind of come to terms with it, but it is strange. Last paycheck ever as a footy player came last month, so it's kind of slightly panic stations here.
Yes.
If anybody out there wants to chuck me a job, I'd appreciate it, but
Well,
I'm feeling good.
You're doing a few gigs at the minute. The other night, I see you're at the Leopold Sportsman's Club. That was a good show.
Along with you, yeah, that went really well. You stole the show. I'm usually good in that forum, but your personality was overpowering.
Oh, no. Well, I thought I'd get a few questions, and they're all asking Zach. I was like, what about old fat over
What
here?
happens when you win a premiership, Bill?
And, of course, this Thursday night, which is what? Tomorrow night?
Yeah.
Or tonight. The Mount Moriac Hotel.
Yes.
Just out of Geelong. So Zach will be there with Cameron Mooney, I think.
Moon's doing it this time.
Right.
Yep.
Now, are you doing an audio book?
I've done it, yeah.
Oh, you've already done it?
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, Bill
No.
could have done your audio book.
Chuck in the Irish accent and really just gone method with it. Yeah.
I think. Now, Bill, see, I thought this was Bill's idea initially. See, the blokes have done very well in the AFL, but in the women's,
Yes.
the Irish women
Yep.
are killing it.
Yeah.
And Bill actually said last week, which may be a reworked idea, but there should be an Irish team in the AFLW because there's so many.
Yep.
At the moment, why do
And
you
the
think
coach was Zach Tuohy.
it's Zach Tuohy?
Well, speaking of, I need a job. Yeah, they should. I think it's a cool idea. Or if they introduce a new team like they did with Tassie, making the Tassie Celtics or something, and draw on that market. I'm not sure exactly what the number is, but it's 30 odd Irish girls, and a lot of them are some of the best players in the league. I think Aisling Maloney for us could arguably be the best player in the AFLW. Certainly one of them. But yeah, there's our girls are kind of ready-made. They've been playing at the top level back home for a long time, so physically they're kind of good to go. It's not much of a transition for them.
Tell us about the day when you went past the great Jimmy Steins' record, of course. Everyone loves Jimmy Steins, what he did for Melbourne Football Club, but for football and the Irish. How was that day, mate?
Yeah, strange. Yeah, confronting a little bit. Genuinely wasn't on my radar right up until a few weeks out, and then it became very real. And I said at the time, and I really meant it, I kind of felt guilty because he's kind of everyone's hero. There's nobody in the industry or outside it who doesn't love Jim Stein. So it was kind of sort of felt like I was shooting Bambi a bit. And but to have Sam there on the day and Tiernan, Jim's son, they did a presentation which I didn't know was happening. Kind of I'm not super clingy with memorabilia from my career, but the jumper I was presented that day is the one thing I'll keep forever.
Couple other questions.
You didn't think about retiring, just one game short?
Nah. As Mark respect, no, I'm not that respectful, unfortunately.
A couple others. What will you miss the most about the great game of Aussie rules?
Yeah, the same things a lot of players talk about. It's the kind of 10 or 20 minutes or half an hour after a win, particularly, but truthfully, even after a loss, because, it's only a matter of time, even after the worst losses, before somebody makes a joke and you just kind of find yourself, chuckling with your mates again. So that's going to be tough. Right now, I don't miss the performance anxiety thing. That's usually back training by now. So right now, that's quite nice. But I suspect come March or even earlier, I'll miss that feeling.
What about the best player you ever played with? Only one. Now, have a listen to a couple of these, right? So Jarden Cripps at Carlton. of course.
Not bad.
Joel, Danger, Hawk, Gary Jr. at Geelong.
Some quality there.
Only one. We're in the schoolyard and Where are you from in Ireland?
Portlaoise.
Which is right in the middle of Ireland. If you throw a dart at Ireland and hits the middle, that's where Portlaoise is.
Bullseye.
Is that right?
Yes, that's
I
good
remember
enough.
that from the other night. There you go.
Yeah, if I could only pick one, I guess, Junior, on his return visit to Geelong, so maybe it wasn't peak Junior, he would be the one I think we would all probably pick. But Danger, for me, I actually think he's slightly slept on despite his CV. I think he gets unfairly criticised for certain aspects of his game. But my first year in Geelong, which was the year after he won the Brownlow, was the year Dusty won it. That individual season is the one time in my career I looked at somebody playing and just thought, I don't really get how he's doing what he's doing. And he's still extremely influential. So I'd pick Danger, but yeah, it's a tough one.
One more. The hardest opponent. I liked this answer the other night. The hardest opponent that you played on, obviously.
Yeah, very early days, Stephen Milne.
Oh,
gave me,
Tip Rat.
Really?
Yeah. Very early, Aaron Joseph was one of our lockdown guys, and he was put on Milne, and I think Milne kicked 3 or 4 in the first quarter, and I'm about 5 games into my career and got the phone call to go and play on him. I was like, no worries. I was trying to figure out the rules, but I'll go and play on him. But him and Cyril was the one that gave me most anxiety.
Yes.
Genuinely, in the week leading up to it. I think I've done okay on him when I've played on him, but that was the one where I was like, this could get ugly.
I used to wonder, because obviously I saw a lot of Cyril play. Often when the ball was near Cyril, you would hear the crowd go, oh. Would you be aware of that while you're standing in?
It's almost worse than that. It's when you got the ball. You could have the ball in 20 metres of space and you would just hack kick it forward because you would be so convinced he was ready to spring on you. So it was less to do about when he had it and even when he didn't. But yeah, Cyril's the one that gave me sleepless nights.
There's someone else too, wasn't there?
Eddie, I would think, was the other one.
Huh?
Eddie Betts is the one I tend to talk about. You can keep Eddie quiet for 118 minutes and then he kicks 3 in the last minute.
It's been a great career, unbelievable career, and loved by everyone. And now you can buy the book, which is
Zach Tuohy, The Irish Experiments, written by Catherine Murphy. It's out now, all good bookstores and online, of course. Bill?
well done, Zach. Great to have you in, and good luck tomorrow night at the Mount Moriac Hotel.
Thanks, guys.
Retired star of the Carlton and Geelong footy clubs, Zach Tuohy. Go and buy his book, Zach Tuohy, The Irish Experiment. It's a rush hour.